So, what's it like to be 22 years old? I don't know, I feel the same. But in all seriousness, recently I just turned 22 I think it was 2 weeks ago, technically, and it doesn't even feel like it. What's kind of crazy to me is that most of the time when I reflect about stuff that has happened at least in my life, there tends to be like this film that like plays over my head, reenacting and putting stuff that I witnessed when I was, a year ago and so on and so forth. But we tend to get in this state of reflection every single year. And a lot of times I don't think we necessarily think about it. I kind of had that realization that most people just kind of do what they can day to day, every single day, and they take the bad and the good, regardless of what's going on in their own personal life or even in the real world around them. And it just seems like a lot of things are the same, but also changing. Like everything is changing, but it's also the same. I could have went with that type of analogy. The whole point of this video is just to kind of put a perspective of what someone might think a 22-year-old might think. I don't know, I might be a little schizo, but I remember when I was 17, heck, even 16, prior to COVID, and I think that really messed people up. I think it kind of messed me up too with my own form of time, because my form of time is just not, it's there, but it's just crazy that so much can happen in such a little time. I think a lot of times I end up feeling kind of stuck sometimes, reminiscing about certain situations that I could have done better, but at the same time, I'm well off to know that I made decisions that I know that I felt like it was right for myself, and I took more initiative than I would normally do. But at the same time, even in the position that I am now, which is good, I think this is the first time in a while that I've ever been so, I wouldn't necessarily say financially comfortable, but more financially fit, meaning that I'm making a good amount, but just good enough to be able to get by and not living paycheck to paycheck. Let's see how long that's gonna last. But I know so many other people that are probably going through their own ventures, their own struggles, that a lot of times that's kind of what media and social media in general, that's what it's mainly used for. I feel like it's used as a form of distraction to distract us from a lot of the things that we're probably going through on a day-to-day basis. And a lot of times it gets us through the day, and it gets us through whatever time that we're going through. And I think that's probably the best thing. But I don't know, man, turning 22 it was very, I guess you could say, anticlimactic. I thought maybe things would be a little different, just to put a little perspective so you can understand where I'm coming from. For my birthday, it was on Sunday, and I actually took that day off, and I actually had to go do my taxes that day, so didn't really had much of a chance to be able to do much. And that same week, I believe that same week, we had some family stuff that was going on. Actually, some people passing, very close people. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really touch upon when you get older, is that sometimes if you have to deal with this, maybe when you were younger, then maybe this wouldn't be so much of a bigger deal. But when you get older, and I think this has been touched upon quite a bit if you go on social media, there's a sense of if you have someone very close that passes, there just becomes like an array of, weirdly enough, death, where one person passes, then next thing you know, this person passes, just all around, just kind of this weird echo chamber. And it's just so weird just for that to just happen. But that could just be the case of, aging and whatnot, and it very much is that. Like, you can be doing well in life, but then, the unavoidable and the inevitable death is always around the corner. And that's something that everyone is going to have to experience, witnessing, and ourselves. I keep saying I hate that, bro. Oh my god. I don't know. I take a lot of self-reflection between things that I record. There's a lot of things that I've been recording that I haven't even just made videos of because of personal situations that have been going on. But that's just me being real with it. But I've been very focused on just trying to find myself in a better position in life, but at the same time, I feel like I can still do more. But I'm not sure exactly what else I can necessarily do. But I think that's kind of why I want to do more stuff relating to YouTube and just try to figure out what exactly am I good at. And a lot of times I've seen people go out of their way and say like, oh, your 20s is the best decade. Well, they probably said that maybe 20 years ago, or maybe even people were fucked up back then too, so I wouldn't even count them out if you're counting millennials and Gen Z and all that type of stuff. But at the same time, there is some people that manage to make it, but there's other people that don't. And I think it's good to acknowledge the people that are still hustling, people who are still trying to make it. When I mean it, I mean a position where they are better off. But I feel like right now I'm in a phase of self-discovery. I feel like right now I'm trying to discover what exactly am I really good at, and is there anything that I could, because I've been in this phase for quite a while now, and it's something that I have to agree with, not only with my mind but with myself. And this is something that I definitely would like to see myself, later in the future. But the thing is that, compared to a lot of other people, there's a lot of other people that will do more work than you would, because there's definitely a lot of other channels, other people who are just as dedicated and just wants that recognition just as much as anybody else. But for me, it's not necessarily recognition, it's more of what exactly am I going to do with my life, you know what I mean? I didn't really go to college. I only went to community college for about 2.5 years until I thought it was like, I didn't feel like it was worth it. Most of the stuff that I was learning was being regurgitated to me to the point where it just felt like I was doing the same schoolwork that I was doing on my senior year. And then I decided that I should go for pre-cybersecurity, and I went in to try to get a certification for that. And if you know anything in the iTech or in the tech world at all, you need a lot more than just certifications. You need a whole damn portfolio and a resume for them to even consider hiring. And hiring is a whole different ball game, and even with people with credentials are having trouble finding jobs with that type of stuff too. But that's a whole different rabbit hole. After I did that, I went in to try, and I believe it was called AWS. It's Amazon Web Services, because at the time I was working at Amazon. And there was a good point where I was doing lessons and stuff like that, and I learned along the way while I was doing the certification that it's only for a year that the certification is active, and even then there are other tiers to those certifications. So it was just like you need more than one. So it's kind of like how the other thing that I was trying to get, which was the pre-cybersecurity. This is all over the place. My point is that I've tried other avenues to try and put myself in the position where I could find a better job and try to learn things on my own, which I did, and it's mine. It's something that I can keep, and no one else is going to be able to say otherwise. But even then, there's a lot of alternatives compared to college. I feel like that's the one thing that I kind of learned about, especially people who I know now that went to college and got a degree and are either still paying it off or not even using the degree that they graduated for. So it's very weird to see that, and I think I took that as I don't think this is necessarily worth it for myself, because I don't want to lie to myself about doing things just for the fuck of it, because I've been doing that for a very, very long time. That's kind of what I was doing when I was in community college. I was originally there for sound engineering, but I ended up switching to trying to get my associates after I went to a studio, thinking that I was going to be learning about a lot of the stuff relating to the industry. Nope, I was just learning how to use Pro Tools and watching a guy use Pro Tools with a display cord and not even using most of the components that were on the dashboard. But even then, I think it didn't really help that most of the time people were either just kind of like fucking around and just doing their own thing, and most of the classes were long for the point of making stuff. But it just felt like, even when I was in community college, it was a fucking ghost town. I think to paint a canvas, I graduated in 2021, and right after I got out of high school, and I went straight into community college. And I remember even walking around the campus, I won't say where obviously, but there was just not a lot of people. It was a ghost town. It was kind of jarring, because I had never seen so many people say, this is the place to be, this is the place to go. And then when you finally get there, it's just empty, and there's a variety of people. There's a variety of people who are just like you, that just graduated from high school, and then there's other people who are older than you, maybe a couple years older, or just really old ass people. So it's very jarring. It feels kind of out of place. I'm not even gonna lie. And I feel like with school systems, I feel like there should be a better way for people to. I know it's not to say like people cannot go to college and stuff, but I feel like there has to be a better way. That's a whole like educational system type of thing. But this is very rambling. But I don't know, man. It's a weird place and time that we're all in, especially from my own. But at the same time, you are your own enemy sometimes, because I end up fighting with myself for dumb reasons, even just to record something like this, and would rather just chill and doom scroll on my phone. But I think that's kind of something that I need to train myself a little bit and have a little self-discipline, and I think everyone else is probably doing the same, and they're learning it at an earlier age compared to myself.